Hello, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hope you're doing well today. Hi, Mac. How are you?
Hi. Guess I'm the first one to hop on.
Yeah, early is always good. Get the worm. You know how it goes.
Yeah, my coach is always like, if you're never, uh, no, if you're on time, you're late. If you're early, then you're on time.
Well, you took that to heart and everything. I can see that.
Yeah.
Um, how you doing it's afternoon where you are?
It's great. Just relaxing today. Finished my schoolwork and working on a project for one of my classes. I'm actually doing it over transgender athletes in sports. So I was like, the conversation was, what's the topic that y'all want to discuss? And I was like, I think this would be perfect. I got pros and cons. Like I can contribute to the table of like this discussion.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely an expert in it, so makes sense.
Yeah. What's up, Chris?
What's going on? Good to see you, Mac. Hey,
You too, man.
I love the aesthetic with the tires there.
thank you. It's my training room, and it just helps people remember I'm an athlete.
Never forget. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey.
Hi.
Andrea joins the room.
Hey guys.
Now we're cooking. Hi, everyone. Um, so my name's Alex Yakacki. I've met everyone here and there via the email, but my pronouns are he, she, they, and I'm a video producer at Breakthrough, and it's a nonprofit org that uses art, media, and tech to advance gender equity, racial justice, LGBTQ plus rights, and immigrant rights. So I encourage everyone here to visit our website, letsbreakthrough.org, and follow us at Breakthrough TV. And today I'm joined by some wonderful folks from Changing the Game, a Hulu original documentary which premiered June 1st and is now streaming nationwide. So check that out right after this. Emmy Award winning filmmaker Michael Barnett, and this urgent sports doc illuminates what many have called the civil rights issue of our time: transgender inclusion in sports. So, Changing the Game takes us into the lives of three high school athletes at different stages of their athletic season, personal lives, and unique paths as trans teens. So their stories span across the US, from Sarah, a skier and teen policymaker in New Hampshire, to Andraya, a track star in Connecticut, openly competing on the girls' track team, to Mack Beggs, who made headlines when he became the Texas state champion in girls wrestling as a boy. So this film, twice, let it be known, the film invites viewers to this intensifying conversation, illuminating the realities that these teens face and the broader communities affected. So that's why we're here today. That's why I'm thrilled to be having this conversation. And now that we know where we're at, I want to introduce these game changers individually. So Mack Beggs is an activist for transgender student athlete rights across the country, including himself. Currently, he's enrolled at Life University and is pursuing a Bachelor of Arts in Human Development and Social Change with goals of becoming a gender therapist, which is fabulous. Um, Mack works with Equality Texas and GLSEN Kansas to continue to advocate for the equality of trans youth. He's a guest speaker at influential events like Austin Pride and appeared as the Grand Marshal for San Antonio's LGBTQ Pride Parade. Mack enjoys being a positive influence in his community and is an outdoor enthusiast. In his free time, Mack loves to spend time with friends, family, two pit bull pups, and his girlfriend. So, can you confirm, Mack? Yes, that's all true.
Yeah, that's definitely all true. But two-time state champ, And you can also add a philanthropist in there as well.
Noted. Philanthropist 2 times. Nobody forget that. So welcome. Thanks for making the time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really glad that I'm here right now.
Cool. We also have Chris Mosier, who is the first openly transgender man to make a men's U.S. national team. He's now a men's All-American duathlete and a 6-time member of Team USA, representing sprint triathlon and short and long course duathlon. He's also the founder of transathlete.com, the leading resource for info on trans inclusion in sport. Chris consults on inclusive sport policy and speaks around the globe about inclusion, allyship, masculinity, and his journey. Welcome, Chris. Thank you for being you and being here.
Thanks for having me. Also, executive producer of Changing the Game.
Also, executive producer.
Thanks.
Changing the Game. We're here to learn and iterate, so perfect. So, last but not least, we have Andraya Yearwood, an activist, athlete, and current college student. As a trans student athlete from Connecticut, she's been a fierce advocate for her right to compete, which has compelled her to fight for the rights of all trans athletes across the country. Andraya has been featured as a panelist at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, Outsports Pride Summit at the University of California, Los Angeles, and more. Andraya has continued to raise her voice to advocate for her place on the track and other trans people in sport writ large. Welcome, and is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think
correct. Work, perfect. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So this idea of storytelling in the name of culture change is kind of the cornerstone of what we do at Breakthrough. And Changing the Game is such a powerful film, a powerful story, many stories, and centers the stories and the lives of youth, trans youth, in ways that we don't really see or hear. So Chris, can you share a little bit about why this film and this conversation in general is so pressing right now?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we're in the second year of attack on the trans community in terms of athletes in the United States. This year, we saw over 75 bills in 34 states target transgender student athletes in high school and in college, trying to prevent them from playing sports with their peers. This is a coordinated effort that's happening across the country, being led and driven by anti-trans hate groups that, I think they're using sports as the entry point to try to create further discrimination against the trans community with the ultimate goal of trying to erase us from public life. We've seen these sports bills be partnered and paired with bills that would prevent transgender youth from having gender-affirming care or being affirmed by their parents. In some cases, there were bills that would have made it child abuse to affirm your trans child. We see these bills partnered with the erasure of LGBTQ curriculum in schools. And so quite literally erasing our history, making sure that young people aren't being taught or talked about in their schools. And then also gender ID markers. And so we're seeing bills that are being introduced trying to prevent trans people from having IDs that are aligned with their gender identity. And so, politicians are using sports, and particularly young people, which is really deeply troubling to me, as political pawns, as a wedge issue to try to gain voters. The reason this is also important right now is we're in the midst of the Olympics. We're seeing our first trans Olympians who are open and out this year, which is amazing. And we know that more and more young people are understanding their identity, having the language to talk about their identity, and feeling more comfortable expressing themselves at a younger age. So we know that the film has an incredible impact on every trans and non-binary young person who sees it, but also all of the people who are aspiring allies, all of the cisgender people who just need a little more education on the topic. While we're hearing all of this negative media, whether it's, negative tweets or headlines that are inaccurate, not really diving into the nuance of our stories, This is so incredibly important because it is literally trans voices telling these stories. And we just need to make sure that we're humanizing the people that are the actual subjects of these laws and this discrimination that's happening. So, I think just the timing of the film coming out is incredibly important right now.
Yeah, there's just so much misguided fear and unease that I think that, like you said, humanizing really does wonders. And we're, trans folks are not going anywhere, so we're gonna have to figure it out. And to that point of humanizing, telling stories, um, kind of fighting back, it's by telling stories that is one way we could do that. And I think it's really special and unique that Mac and Andrea, you had the opportunity to kind of retake control of your stories and your narrative and the greater narrative of what's going on. So again, like this is something we firmly believe here at Breakthrough. And one of our ongoing multimedia initiatives is called Our Stories in Vivid Color, which gives a platform to young girls and gender nonconforming youth of color to tell their stories on their terms via whatever medium speaks to them. And that's just been so fulfilling to be a part of. And I think, it takes a lot of stories out there. So happy that we're all doing the work. And for Mac, you and Andrea, what did it mean to be able to tell your story through such a powerful, piece of art that is now so distributed? If either one of you want to go first.
There you go.
All right. No, I think it meant a lot to the both of us, just to be able to use kind of like what we went through and what we experienced to use that for the greater good, and to use it to aid other trans athletes who are in the same position as us, or trans youth in general, or really anyone who could, take something or learn something from our experiences, from what we had, what we went through. I think it really, at least for me, it kind of put what I was doing into perspective, and kind of made me think, okay, like kind of like what I'm doing is bigger than myself, and that I need to start kind of acting as such, kind of looking at it like, there are people who actually need my help, people who can actually learn from like what I have to say or just what I've experienced.
Yeah, definitely. Being a part of the film was awesome to experience to just transcribe my life in a way that others can understand and be in perspective of like what we're going through, because a lot of the people that I talked to like had a very neutral stance. So like when we're contributing to this conversation, there's a much more bigger picture, and to be a part of that process was like absolutely amazing. And even though like when we were like filming and stuff, it was like in the moment, but when we got to finish like the outcome of it, it was like, whoa, we went through all of that. It didn't even seem like it was that huge then, because we were just going through life. We were just going through high school, trying to get better grades and trying to be a better athlete.
Yeah, that's the power of it. And I think the fact that the doc, has this tapestry element of multiple young people just trying to live that, like Andre, you said, it puts you in into the bigger narrative. It's like, whoa, you're not
Yeah,
living in a
it gives
vacuum.
it gives a very a beautiful transcription of like what our lives are. Like we're not just a stereotype that the media can portray very negatively. And that's what we're trying to turn around. Especially before COVID, there was a lot of conversation about it, and then it just kind of like died when COVID hit. And then afterwards, when everybody started, being more open, going back to school, the conversation sparked again. And then the bills happened, and then it was like, oh, we really have to do something about this. Like this conversation is happening. Like this is actually we need to change something. There needs to be some amplification of how we can spark this change in narrative.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what y'all are doing, and what has to happen, because it's really wild, I think, but not surprising in other ways how much time, energy, money goes behind the trying to take over the narrative. So, Chris, why do you think it's important in general for trans kids to be able to be in sports?
Yeah, I mean,
Play.
sports for me when I was a kid was like my safe space, which is so interesting because we know that sports can be a safe space for trans and non-binary folks, but also can be a really dangerous place for us, particularly given the sort of social narrative that's happening right now across our country. But for me as a kid, before I had the language or terminology to say that I was trans, I found my friends, my family, my community on my sports teams because that was a space where we were family, right? We were working towards a common goal. We all put in the effort together. We made bonds that I quite frankly didn't have with other kids outside of the court of the field because they thought that I was odd or different than they were, which was not wrong. I absolutely was. but but I really poured myself into sports because it was that space where I felt affirmed in the way that I thought other people, my peers, felt affirmed in the classroom or at home or in the neighborhood. So, it helped me as an athlete. And we know that every young person gets the same things that I experienced out of playing sports. It's the opportunity to experience teamwork, right? And so, like, I became a better team player in classrooms on group projects because of sports. Dedication, leadership skills, communication skills, how to be resilient, how to be persistent. A lot of things that actually translate directly to my transition as a trans person or my existence as a trans person in terms of strength and courage and resiliency and the things that I need to summon within myself to sometimes get out of my door every day. I learned that through sports. And we know that young people play sports, to have the opportunity to connect with their peers, to move their bodies, to feel good and affirmed about who they are, and to have fun. Like, it's just fun, right? And so all of those reasons are the ways that kids play sports. And trans kids play sports for the same reasons as everybody else, to have friends, to move their bodies, to get those benefits that we know exist from playing sports.
Yeah, and I think the film does a really good job of flipping the question about fairness on its head and being like, is it fair, is it fair that we're denying these young people this opportunity to literally develop as like a functioning like human adult in the world? And yeah, I think it's really effective framing.
And it's crazy how we can even come to that conversation of fairness when how can we say it's fair to ban kids from literally competing in sports, and especially at such a young age where, we preach that being young, like, that's vital to like our development, and what we're now just going to hinder that for a specific type of community. Like, that's not fair. That's unfair.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, the idea like, oh, they're young, we don't want to like bring up these topics unless it's, but then you'll bring it up and vilify and traumatize them, but we don't want to talk about it. But there are like two kind of powerful subplots within the film of like joy, of course, and resilience, and I think that is often the trans experience. And then the impact of allyship and having supportive and loving family and friends. And I think those two narratives are often missing from the bigger national or international world conversation. Like I said, where trans kids are vilified or deceptive and traumatized or politicized. So for now, let's talk about trans joy. I'm curious what everyone is looking forward to in their lives, and it could be simple as like dinner, or if you have a project or something you learned lately. So what are you hopeful for in the future and trying to achieve?
Okay. I think for me, what I'm most hopeful for is, honestly, just more of that trans joy. As we've all said, within the, again, national global conversation, a lot of legislators, a lot of people in general kind of make trans individuals and trans athletes out to be kind of like this big bad monster. With sports trying to take women's medals, or even like with the bathroom bills, you know, being in there, or like I guess men trying to be women to go to the bathroom, like just things that just aren't realistic. And I mean, I just hope for the future that more people will be more, will just have get more of a sense of awareness around trans athletes, trans community as a whole, and just kind of understand. I mean, again, just bringing that humanity back in the conversation and saying that, I mean, trans people are just people, like nothing more, nothing less. Like I feel like a lot of people try to again make us seem like we're something we're not, and it's like we're just people again trying to play sports, trying to use the bathroom, and I just hope, you know, kind of the criticism of our lives and of the trans experience will kind of like cease just exist, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. I just hope that in the near future, I definitely feel like our country is turning around, and not just like this specific conversation now, but multiple things that we're needing to change about our world. And I'm very hopeful of that. And being able to live in my truth every day, that gives me joy to be able to be myself, have courage with myself, and be resilient, and feed that energy out to others is what I hope for every single day. And when I wake up every single day, it's what I hope for, to be able to give back to my community the best that I can with what I've learned through my experience.
That's awesome. For me, I'm going to take it a little different direction. It's my birthday month, so I'm excited about that. And the reason I'm excited about it, the reason that I'm bringing it up right now is that for literally 29 years of my life, I did not tell a person when my birthday was. I did not feel I was worthy of celebration, and I never ever wanted to celebrate my birthday. And you know, like the last several years, every year has been better than the last. Me living authentically, being able to own the power of my identity, share that with other people, share my light, share my joy, you know, with others. Like I'm actually excited to celebrate myself now, and so happy birthday to me.
As you should be, Chris.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
But like big picture, what I'm really what gives me joy right now is, first of all, I'm creating a website. So I run transathlete.com, created that website. I think the inclusion of non-binary athletes is an essential part of this conversation. So I'm creating a website called nonbinaryathlete.com. It's going to launch very soon, and I'm still putting the finishing touches on that. But I want to create that resource, that hub of policy and information and education around non-binary athletes, so that they also feel their place in sport, because there's absolutely a place for them in sport. And then I'm really excited about the Olympics. I just love the Olympics as a Team USA athlete. And this conversation around mental health and prioritizing mental health as part of athletes' experiences, I think is really starting to help shift the conversation about the humanity of us as people. And, you know, going back to the film, what you can see very clearly in Changing the Game in these moments of criticism against Andraya, against Mack, against Sarah, is that people forget that we are real people. And, you know, the thing about this film humanizing us, humanizing our stories, letting it be from our voices, our experiences, is so critically important. And so this idea of the narrative shifting to see athletes as people, like with real lives and real families and real feelings and emotions, going through some real stuff, right? Like, I think that's going to change everything. And I think that conversation in the Olympics is going to have a positive trickle-down effect to the narrative and the conversation around transgender athletes. So that's what I'm hopeful for.
Word. Well, happy birthday month. That's super exciting. And yeah, I love the high level and personal level of joy. And I think for me, I think it brings me a lot of joy to see these firsts and whatnot, which, like, of course, it's kind of like, has it been the first, or is it, you know, how long did it take? But it tells me that the tide is turning, and that, you know, it will not be the last. So good luck slowing that, you know, first in the government, first at the Olympics, first everywhere. Like, you know, it is what it is. So yeah. And then I'm trying to think of a small scale, but we'll come back to it. So Chris, back to a little more activism. So with the wave of legislation that is highly anti-trans that you spoke of earlier, what can we do what can we do to stop that, to combat that? And what other legislation or activism should we be supporting, twofold to change the game?
Yeah, so let's talk policy first and then other action items second. So policy, right now, as I said, 34 states introduced over 75 bills against the trans community in 2021 alone. Many of those did not pass, but unfortunately, 8 states passed laws that now ban trans kids from playing sports in those states, making 9 total with Idaho last year. At this moment in time, 5 different states are still actively discussing whether or not we should play. And so if you live in any of those 5 states, and you can find them on transathlete.com/take-action, or just transathlete.com will get you there. You can reach out to your lawmakers. Your voice is important. Every single voice counts, and lawmakers are actually looking for people to speak up and speak out against these bills. And so if you live there, please contact folks. Please, express your concerns and make sure that people know that you are not in favor of that legislation. Second to that, what can you support? You can support the Equality Act first and foremost. Trans people don't have federal protections, just as LGBTQ folks in general don't have federal protections, but the trans community is significantly and disproportionately impacted by hate crimes, by violence against our community, specifically trans women of color. And so we need to have federal legislation in effect protecting all people, trans, non-binary, on the basis of gender identity and expression, making sure that that's a thing. So reach out to your lawmakers, specifically your senators, and tell them that you are in favor of that. Other things that folks can do, this is like an obvious one given the nature of this Instagram Live, but dive into Mack and Andraya and Sarah's stories and Terry's story and watch Changing the Game and use that as a tool to have conversations. Like, the coolest thing about this documentary is, like, it takes me forever to get through a book, but you can take 90 minutes of your time on Hulu. And if you don't have a Hulu subscription, get that 2-week free trial and watch the film. Use that as like your book club, right? And have conversations with your family, with your neighbors, with your community, with your sports teams about what the film meant to you, what it resonates with you, because every single person can watch this film and see someone they connect to. Whether it's Mack's grandma, or it's Andraya's mom, or it's Andraya, herself. So like every single person can connect to somebody, watch their experience evolve through the course of the film, and use that as an opportunity to say, hey, like, I didn't understand all the terminology. Maybe I'll look this word up, or maybe I'll understand, or I'll Google this concept because I didn't quite get it. It's just a great starting point, because I think the biggest thing that's the challenge to our community and to our acceptance right now is just a lack of education. Like, second to the negative media coverage, which absolutely shapes the way that we are perceived and treated, it's a lack of education. People are, as Mack said, are indifferent about our experience if they don't really have the information either way. So dive in and use that film as a resource and a tool.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, people largely are uninformed, and there's, I forget the exact statistic of the percent of people that don't know a trans person or don't think they know a trans person. And it's like, that's real, but there are other ways to learn, to get to know trans folks in different ways. And media is a large part of that. So, we're kind of wrapping up. So I wanted to talk about allyship, and I was going to ask, like, one thing that we could do, and I think, Chris, that you kind of touched on what I was going to say, of like, be critical of the media you consume and that your friends and your family consume, and offer alternatives, and beyond what you watch, what you read, what you see on Instagram, what you let slide or don't, that what people think is funny is, or not, or serious or not an issue. So I would just say, seek out things that challenge you in addition to inspire you or make you feel comfortable, and then hold others accountable around you around that. So Mack and Andraya, do you have anything to add to that conversation or that point, or other action items that folks could take into their allyship?
Yeah, just to really critically think about, the information that you retain from either sites or people, especially social media. Make sure it's really reliable, and make sure you're getting the information as best as you can to where you can understand it. And just be a better ally. We need our allies more than ever right now. And yeah, we just got to do more for the community right now, and it's very important that we do that.
Yeah, I agree. A big part of just making sure your information is transparent, like uh, what you're but also for more is the link game.com slash
Is anyone
Andrea,
else
I
not
think,
in here?
yeah, I'm like,
oh you can
Andrea, I think maybe there's like maybe a fan or like something that's overtaking your audio because I want to hear what you have to say.
okay. Well, there isn't a fan in here. Do you think it's because it's on something like mic is on like a table or
You're
something?
good now, yeah, yeah.
All right, I'll hold it like this then.
Yeah.
But okay, I was just saying to go on changinggamedoc.com/resources just for more resources to help out trans athletes and just more tools to just help the community.
Yeah, it's all out there and y'all are doing the good work, so everyone should be a better ally. There's no excuses these days. Um, Simple Google, you know. Um, so yeah, is there anything else y'all want to make a point about? Um,
I
let
just
me
want to say
find.
thank you for giving us this space today. Any opportunity I have to spend with Mack and Andraya, I'm absolutely in favor of it. But I think it's so important, and I'm just so grateful that people have been using their platforms to elevate the voices of the athletes in the film because their stories are absolutely worth sharing. And I tell everybody you cannot watch this film and not fall in love with these two. And so I love them both. I'm happy to be here with them, and thank you for giving us the time and the platform. We appreciate it.
Yeah, totally. And I will say, so Changing the Game is on Hulu, very accessible. I would encourage you to watch it once, twice, like daily. It's like it's aesthetically and like vibe wise is like a really good documentary. Like it beyond the like activism of
It's
it, like
beautiful. It's a beautiful film. It has all aspects of the just life. It's a documentary, but it's more than that. There's more aspects to it, and it's awesome. You just gotta go see it.
yeah, for sure. It's really a really good watch and you'll laugh and cry and be inspired. So definitely check it out. Thank you, Mac, Andrea, Chris.
Yeah.
Um, go ahead and follow Changing Game Doc and Chris Mosier on Instagram, on Twitter, stay in the loop. And yeah, go see the film and then take action. And you can follow Breakthrough TV on Instagram, let's breakthrough.org. Check out all the wonderful things we're doing as well. And I just want to say thanks for taking the time out of your day. This has been lovely. Yeah, and onward and upward, y'all.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.